Hello and welcome to the Throwback podcast. Stop smiling at me like that. Hello and welcome to the Throwback podcast. I'm Mark from the Throwback store and I'm here with Ginger Shaq and a special guest. Do you want to? Will he be below?
I don't know.
The Brady Bunch.
Yeah, will he be? Yeah. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Jarlath Regan. I'm a podcaster, comedian, podcaster. Depends on what day of the week it is. I've appeared on a lot of stuff, bits and pieces on the telly, but mainly I'm producing podcasts called the Irishman Abroad Podcast Network, which includes Irishman Running Abroad, Irishman in America, Irishman Inside Basketball, Irishman Behind Bars, Men Behaving Better, Irishman Coming Home. There's a bunch of podcasts that I've been making for the last 8 years. And my true obsession is basketball. That's the truth.
Amazing. So that is a lot to take in. That's a lot. Wait a minute.
So just to clarify and confirm for anyone that hasn't worked out, you are Irish then?
Yeah, I am indeed. Yeah. I wear that. I don't mention it much, but it comes up. I moved to England 8 years ago, kind of around the time that the Irish economy just like tanked, and
are you the reason?
To make? Yeah, it was partially down to me and my spending on basketball memorabilia. Massive bank loans. You know, the EU had to bail the country out on the basis that I wanted tearaway pants from the 1990s. They were hard to find and expensive. But I came over with my wife and son and kind of started Irishman Abroad without any real idea. And it really was an early doors kind of thing with podcasting. Like I can remember saying it to my father-in-law and him going, "Sure, how are you going to make money out of giving it away?" And I was like, I actually don't know, but I'm sure it'll figure itself out. And it did. And in so many ways, it's regarded as like the OG Irish podcast, and it's listened to by millions of people across the world. Because that's Ireland's biggest export outside of Guinness. It's their people. My friend Tommy said that Ireland colonized the world back using a phone book and a sleeping bag, and it's pretty true. So I've settled over here 8 years ago, and haven't missed a week producing the podcast for 8 years, and all those other shows just are kind of like passion. Like you guys know how it is. The reason why people love your show and love your output is because you're so passionate about it. Like it's obvious, it comes across. And I always think that that's the center of all good podcasting and online content is you gotta love it.
Yeah, you've got to want it.
Really love it. Yeah, and that's what gets you out of bed to do it.
It's thankless as well doing it. It is thankless. It is. It's like at times you're editing it and you're doing everything and you're like, ugh, what? Yeah. Like what? Why?
Well, I'm very lucky. I got a really good editor and producer since the word go called Brian Connolly, who's back in Dublin, and he's like got a PhD in sound and production and stuff. So I do regard that side of it you're talking about, Mark, as the thing that stops everybody from continuing their podcast is usually that hair pulling experience of, oh my God, I can't get this M and A to disappear from the sound file. And they just take the computer, throw it out the window, set their house on fire and start a new life somewhere else.
Back in Ireland.
I've never had to do that because of Brian Connolly. So shout out to Brian Connolly, who isn't the 1980s stand-up comedian.
He was good as well. You know,
it wasn't bad either. Full respect to him.
Yeah, probably not at sound engineering, but hey,
no, not his forte. He's dangerous, Brian Connolly.
Yeah. Where did you move to in England?
I live in St Albans, a real basketball hub. Well, it actually is. There's like Oakland's College down the road here has got like a center for basketball excellence, produce great players. A lot of national team players come out of there. But, you know, I used to do bits about this on stage that in England, basketball, like the view of it is really specific because in terms of Ireland, basketball has a really special place. particularly in terms of Gaelic games. So a lot of guys would have played it in the winter to stay fit. And there's a lot of crossover skills in Ireland in terms of basketball to Gaelic football and hurling. In that, I'm not sure how much you know about Gaelic football, but it is played as a kind of a cross between basketball and football, in that it's a lot closer to Australian rules.
Yeah.
So a lot of similar crossover skills. Some guys that I played with who went on to represent their county and country were incredible basketball players. Like I remember seeing one guy called Dermot Early take a rebound from the top of the backboard. And I was just like, my mind was blown. Yeah. I was like, how has that happened? And then you see him play Gaelic football and you're like, oh, I see. All these skills work perfectly in there. But then when you come over here and you go down to the local sports center and you ask, do you have a basketball court? And they say, yes. And you say, can I play on it? Can I play basketball on it? They look at you like you went into a massage parlor, like a regular upstanding massage parlor, and said, do you do massages? How do they end? They're like, why would anybody play basketball on the basketball court? We haven't even got basketballs in the building. Yeah. But I feel like in the last 8 years, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong on this, that's really changed.
Yeah.
There's a big shift taking place in the last 8 years. Visibly, you can see the shift. And I'm sure you can see it in terms of your sales.
Yeah, definitely.
The mood and the attitude towards the sport has changed. And that's a brilliant thing.
Definitely. I think the culture around the country has changed. But you still, on a daily basis, you'll see people's like, because we obviously social media followers. I see people that play basketball and they play pickup, and you've got all these guys that go and play five-a-side power league and whatnot, football, and you've got the guys that go and do a bit of pickup basketball, and they're being asked, can you bounce the ball a little bit quieter? Mary and John are playing badminton.
It is true. It is a loud game. I mean, it is a loud game. Like Mikey, my son, 10 years old, basketball obsessive. Not even by choice. He was just told, this is the sport. This is happening. Get used to it. But no, like I joke about that, but I just made sure that he knew that this is a gift, right? And I think I talked to Nathan Caton about this on the other UK basketball podcast that I did, that whatever about the noise level of it and the difficulty that comes with sometimes being in places where people are like, what is this? Why would anybody want to play this? You once you can play it or have an ability to just enjoy it, you don't need friends to play this with.
No.
I've always loved that part of it. I grew up in the countryside in Ireland. There was nobody to play with, but I was just never bored. As long as I had a hoop and a ball, I just was, I never had any recollection of being like, oh, there's nothing to do, because this thing gives you so much back. And everywhere I've traveled to, New Zealand, Australia, across Canada and America, there's just always, there's like a pocket of interest wherever you go.
Yeah.
Where I can't remember being in New Zealand, really quick story. I was doing the New Zealand Comedy Festival in Auckland. And I mentioned basketball in my show, and afterwards, it's like this kind of wink and nudge, like the magic circle. The guy comes up to me afterwards and goes, you mentioned basketball in the show there. And it was a reference. It was a pretty deep cut reference. And he said, I have a game that I run at 7 a.m. every morning for ad execs in Auckland. And I mean, lads, it was just like heaven sent. Like, I was so alone. I was on the other side of the world. And next thing I know, I'm suiting up at 7 a.m. before the world is awake, playing 5-on-5 full court. And it was just like, it just made me go, I have to pass this on to my son, whatever I do. Because whatever about football being the world's game, there's just something very special about being into something that not everybody else.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's that thing of it's mine. Where I'm from, in St. Helens, which is like a town in between Liverpool and Manchester, it's all rugby league. it's all rugby league. Everybody plays rugby league. Everybody plays rugby. And then when it's football, you either support Man United or you support Liverpool. And that is it. Nothing else. So I got into basketball, and that was like mine. Like, I just loved basketball, and that was just my thing. And everybody was like, when I was younger, it was like, you have all the people like, why are you playing basketball? What? For that reason. Because I don't want to hang around with any of you. That's why. They're on my own and play basketball.
That's right, Mark. You tell them that it was you that didn't want to play with them.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely the other way around.
Positive affirmation. You were they asked you to 5-a-side. You turned up with cornrows and a headband.
Yeah.
Also were 5 sizes too big.
On attack.
Cancers on.
Yeah.
The final moment you turned up with a gun, Mark. You're not Allen Iverson.
Yeah. Like Gilbert Arenas in the locker room.
But it does, in a weird kind of way, it does isolate you in some ways. And I think it's especially in this part of the world, like, even though there was a big tradition of it in the school that I went to, and lots of guys that were obsessed with it at that specific window in time when the second three-peat was taking place, was really the time when I was playing it at a reasonable level. There is still a certain isolation. I remember feeling like the football guys hated the basketball guys for a period because they wanted to play 5-a-side on the indoor, and we obviously wanted to use it to play half court. And there was no compromise there. They weren't going to play our sport and we weren't going to play theirs. But that's character building stuff, lads, is it not?
It is.
You need to be different in this life. You gotta be.
Definitely. So how did you initially get into basketball?
Yeah, I've thought about this, and I've been asked this question a lot. I wrote a piece for the Irish Times about this because for guys my age and my kind of generation, I don't know if you call it a generation, but it's quite like Italia 90 was for kids that played soccer here in England. That when you were 9, 8, or 10, I was 10 for Italia 90. It's like the first record you listen to, you think, oh, well, nothing's going to beat that because it goes in a way like nothing else you've heard. Basketball went into me like the first great movie you ever see, because the first great basketball I ever saw was the Dream Team. And it was the Beatles. It really was the Beatles. It was fully, Ringo, Paul, Charles, Mike, MJ, and Larry. It had that. They were funny. There was a chemistry between them that you wanted to be part of. You wanted friends like that. You wanted to look like that. You wanted to dress like that, and you wanted to be able to play like that. And just that, mania. Like Beatlemania that surrounded that team, even penetrated rural Ireland. That's insane. I remember Aziz Ansari talking about how NWA resonated with kids in rural North Carolina, and how that blew his mind in later years. It's only now I realize how did the Dream Team really kick off what we're living in now, what you guys do, and how we're having this podcast now can be traced back to that one moment when suddenly the world realized that there are these superhuman athletes who for decades have been honing their skills, and now there's essentially a Superman to lead them. And they're going to take on the world and absolutely entertain and put everybody in their place. I still get chills thinking about it. And for that reason, Mark, I am obsessed with Dream Team memorabilia, paraphernalia, things connected to the time, and documentaries of the period, books. I had Jack McCallum on my podcast to talk about the writing of that Dream Team book. And, he was the closest to them in terms of a journalist. So that's a long roundabout way the reason why I got into basketball. Yeah.
Amazing. So obviously you've just mentioned basketball documentaries, things like that. Last year, lockdown, everyone went mad for The Last Dance. But you are a man that enjoys a basketball movie as well.
Big time.
What are the top three?
Top three. I know Mark's top three because I heard him on another podcast saying his, and I was amazed that Space Jam was in there, because I think that you're obviously a little bit younger than me. Are you, Mark?
Yeah.
Because
I'm 87.
See, that's a dividing line, isn't it, in terms of basketball movie appreciation? Because for so many people, Space Jam was the movie that sparked them. That was their dream team. For me, the Space Jam movie was a horrid disappointment. I was just so angry at it. Yeah, like I was into basketball at that point, 4, 5, 6 years, and I was obsessed with. What I was obsessed with about Space Jam was the Jordan Dome, the building that they created for him to work out in. The behind the scenes stuff that I was reading in FIBA Basketball Monthly was that Michael Jordan is taking Reggie Miller, Magic Johnson, the entire UCLA team. Dennis Rodman's calling in. They're playing pickup games until late at night. And I'm like, this movie is going to be incredible.
Yeah.
And then the movie Space Jam makes no sense whatsoever. It's called Space Jam. It takes place in the center of the Earth's core. Why is it called Space Jam? Like, even on that basis, I was like, oh, fuck this. I don't like this at all. It's only obviously as time's gone by, I realized it was a kid's movie. And I went to the premiere of the new one this week. Sunday, actually, whole nother story. What a bad day to schedule the premiere of Space Jam 2 when there's a football riot happening outside the building and all these kids are coming out the door and there's like firecrackers sticking out people's arses. I mean, the movie is batshit crazy. I was like, oh my God, thank God that fever dream is over. And then we walk out the door and it's literally the end of days taking place. I mean, this is a roundabout way of saying that Space Jam is not in my top three. My top three are as follows. He Got Game, 3, Above the Rim, 2, and White Man Can't Jump, number 1. And I had the director of White Man Can't Jump, Ron Shelton, on my podcast because that's how obsessed I am with that movie. Such a good movie.
That movie, I've got a signed poster downstairs, signed by Wesley Snipes, Woody Harrelson, and the director.
Wow.
That is like...
That's a nice piece.
That White Men Can't Jump is just other... I can just watch that just for the one-liners all the way through. Forget the story, which is brilliant.
Yeah, well, it's got like maybe the strongest opening 20 minutes of any sports movie ever, I would say. Like that opening down to the courts and what kicks off there in terms of establishing who he is, his hustle, the humor and the wit, and this view of LA that was kind of grimy, right? Yeah. So LA was like a, glitz and glamour, but there's this other side to it, the Venice Beach stuff. Really, I was just like, I'd never seen anything like it. And also, look, I was a young adolescent boy at the time, and there's aspects of that movie that obviously hit very hard in terms of my growing up. Yeah. And I don't know if there was a boy my age who watched that movie and didn't instantly fall in love with Rosie Perez, like on sight.
Rosie Perez. I watched everything she's been in since, and I don't good at acting. So this is what it is, isn't it?
To be fair though, you can't critique her acting, Mark. You generally watch it on mute.
Yeah, I know. I don't even know what she's saying.
I like her. I did find the character super annoying in that movie, and they probably over-egged the amount of time she had on screen. But like, to move to the number 2 movie, the Above the Rim movie, to me is one of the unappreciated great basketball movies.
Great.
Because when I talked to Ron Shelton about shooting the scenes, the actual basketball scenes in White Men Can't Jump, he talked about spending hours and hours running pickup games and allowing them to play and just letting them play rather than choreographing. You set a pick here, you go around there, then lob it off the board to him, which the human eye is weird in this way that it's a bit like comedy. When they try and shoot stand-up for a movie, when it's not real, it's really obvious. Your brain just knows. It's nearly like CGI. You can just automatically pick it up. But in Above the Rim, it was clear.
They played
basketball. It was clear when they played, and it was clear when they were like, take two, bounce it between your legs, and you catch it. Also, Tupac's performance in that movie, fantastic. He just steals it.
Yeah,
he was such a good actor. Never mind rapping. Like, I just think he would have been a great actor, even if the rapping thing didn't happen. Yeah. I know that's not in your top three. Is it in yours, Dean?
No, it wasn't.
So my top three is, in third place is White Men Can't Jump.
3. Okay. Wow. What's coming next? Have a think about this before you do it, because we've been friends for a while now.
Oh God, you think we're friends?
Oh, sorry.
I'm here for the podcast rights and the discount code for the shop. That's his.
Yeah.
Number 2 is it's Space Jam.
Understandable. But, I get it.
And that is, again, like, I was born 92.
Yeah.
So
totally.
But number 1 has been and always will be Glory Road.
No way.
Glory Road is a great film.
Wow. Great movie.
And every time I talk to people about basketball movies, all of the ones get mentioned, and even Blue Chips gets mentioned. And I'm like, what about Glory Road? People are like, they either say, is that what you guys just have? Yeah. Or they go, what?
Yeah.
At one point I said Glory Road, and somebody said to me, what, the one with Matthew Broderick and Morgan Freeman in the American Civil War? I'm like, no, that's Glory. Very, very different films. Yeah. And then I went, but also mildly has
the
similar ethics. Like, but not the same film. No, not the Battle of Gettysburg. That wasn't an NC.
They probably paid a bit of pickup at the end of the day, but it didn't make the cut.
Yeah. It might have brightened up the movie. It ended on a sad note.
Yeah.
So,
but go ahead.
Going off of like movies, and I could talk about them for hours, I suppose. Your prized jersey in your collection. What is your number 1? What is your? This is mine.
Yeah.
This is my
good choice.
A game 1. That's game 1 Allen Iverson jersey.
You got it. I didn't know you got it.
Yes.
I mean, you must feel like you cleared the game and put in your initials.
That's exactly what happened. I've just kind of gone.
Nah. When did you get it?
I got it a couple. Wow, when did I get it now? A couple of months ago.
Probably be March, April time.
Yeah. Oh my God. Can I see the tags?
You can. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So I completed the game, like you say.
I mean, it's over.
That's
It's a dunk contest.
Yeah, it's over. Harder, isn't it? No.
I mean, what did you think when it came to fruition? Like, you must have just ran around the house.
Yes, it was just so crazy because I'd been talking about it. We'd been talking about it on here a million times. That's the first question everybody kind of asks.
Yeah, what's the one you want?
Yeah, what's your grail? Like, what's the jersey you want? And I've always said, if I can get a game 1 Allen Iverson jersey, that's it for me. And then one day, a few people tagged me in a post on Facebook in one of the jersey groups that I'm in. And some
people
guy
are so nice.
And some guy was selling one. And I just messaged him, agreed on a price, and got it shipped over from America. And
are you ever going to tell us what that price was?
Well, I don't need it documenting. I'm still trying to get over it myself. So,
are we talking? It was definitely 4 figures.
Yeah, it's definitely 4 figures. It was 4 figures.
But to complete the game, I mean, I don't argue with it.
Yeah, there was a pot of money that I had there, and I thought that's always going to stay there just in case this turns up, because I've had jerseys in the past that I've had the chance of paying for, and I've gone, can I really justify it? And then they've gone, and then I've been like, why have I not done it? That was never going to happen.
Well, it's so funny because my Grail is a game-worn Iverson Georgetown.
Oh.
Now, I don't have this jersey, but to me, that's where I would sit my wife down and explain,
this is happening.
We're getting this jersey.
You're not going to touch it. You're not going to look at it. You're not going to do anything with it, but we're getting this. And
I kind of am obsessed with origin story. And I never like the movies where the Transformers go off into space. I'm more interested in, Daniel LaRusso before and just becoming. And the Dream Team, again, is another origin story. Yeah. And for me, Iverson goes to prison in high school.
Yeah.
He gets this second chance with Georgetown where it's like no one else will take him. Like his mother goes to the university and begs them to take the future number 1 NBA pick and MVP. Please,
I know.
Will you take my son? And like that jersey, you know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
With the pattern on the unders.
Yeah,
under the arm.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great jersey. Mitchell and Ness have just recently released it, but it's not.
I got it. Dog shit. And like all due respect to Mitchell and Ness, I'd cut that out.
Well, that's staying in.
Dog shit. I'm sorry. I would just appeal to them if they do listen to this to just sort their shit out and have a look at their lives.
I mean, based on the fact that Mark's a stockist, we know they don't listen to the pod.
Yeah.
Okay, well then let's talk about it, because this does need to be talked about. And if people are tuning in going, the Throwback pod, we do need to talk about what Mitchell and Ness are doing, the decisions they're making on the cut, on the materials, the things that they're going, no, we won't do that, but we will do this. Yeah. That jersey arrived in the post, and I was never so disappointed in all my life.
Did you get the Swingman or the Authentic?
I got the Swingman, which of course is was all I could get at the time.
Yeah.
But then based on that, because I would have bought both, but based on looking at that, I was like, no, I made the right choice here. I just saved myself 250 quid because I know what the Authentic upgrade would be based on the other stuff that I own. And I then started to go, right, well, what I'm going to do is try and dig out the old Nike version, which everybody had when I was in secondary school. Yeah. And that was a decent jersey. Like that looked a lot closer to the real thing. But then you're never going to get the real thing. And this is why game worn is game worn. Yeah. And why that extra length and just, you're talking about antiques.
Yes.
That's essentially what this is.
Definitely.
This isn't that jersey. If somebody reproduces a fine piece of art, it's always a reproduction. Always.
Exactly. It doesn't matter. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. There are jerseys that are nice, that are reproductions, but when you have, like I obviously got this and then got all the paperwork and stuff with it. And with the beauty of it, and like you say, like a backstory, we played the Bulls when he wore this jersey, and he beat the Bulls, and Jordan was guarding Iverson in that game. So there's a bit of Michael in the Jordan
locker room.
On it.
Yeah, it's been in the locker room and hung in.
Yeah,
it was folded after the game, And yeah, it was taken off in jubilation having beaten the Bulls.
Yeah.
I mean, that's never going to be a factory reproduction. You just can't do it.
Exactly. And it's ended up in a small town in England. Like, it's crazy.
You couldn't write it.
It's crazy.
Love it.
But so we never got to what your personal jersey.
I don't think much of my collection. Honest to God, I don't think much of what I have. There are ones that are precious to me. Like there's a Dream Team Chuck Daly released by Nike, which are extremely hard to find. They're hard
on it.
Yes, yeah, and it's they're very, very hard to find. There's a funny story behind it in that they had 8 of them in my local Nike outlet, and they had them up at £125. And I was like, that's a nuts price. No one's going to buy this. Nobody likes basketball around here. So week after week, I'm not exaggerating, I have a photo to prove this. Week after week, the price dropped. It was like watching the stocks, right? It just keeps going down. They just keep putting the sticker on top of the sticker. I got this thing. Yeah, I got this thing for 25 quid in the end. And it's probably my favorite in the collection. But again, if the house burned down tomorrow, heaven forbid, I wouldn't lose sleep over it, because I think sometimes I feel like you don't want to own things that are so special that it would hurt you if they got destroyed. And that's probably just a personal thing, that you come through things in your life, in my personal life, where you realize that collecting is important, but there is more important stuff. That said, if I did own an Iverson game worn Georgetown black Navy jersey, that would be the thing that I would be more sad.
Family behind is what you're trying to say. Because I'm leaving everything behind. I'm wearing this on the way out if it's burning down. I'll run outside. I'll just start going, why are we talking? You're talking about practice. Like, you
actually need to practice your evacuation of the house for that very reason. Yeah, so that's my truth on that. That really is my truth. I've yet to have my Grail. Hopefully someday.
Someday. I've lost track of questions. Is it your question or is it mine?
Give me a minute. I'll have a look.
See, this is how good the podcast is. Smooth.
Yeah, I love the testy relationship between you two.
Yeah, it's like we've got to be here. Is how it feels.
Yeah.
It's like being in work. It's like we're getting paid, but we're not even getting paid. So we've not even got that excuse.
Someday.
Yeah, someday.
Go for it. Shoot.
No, the next question was just about the league at the minute, and obviously, as somebody who respects the legends of the game, is there anybody other than the notable Mr. Space Jam remake? I won't say his name because he's not as good as MJ. That you think will, that in years to come, when your son is older, and there's players in the league, because we were discussing the other week. I say the other week, everything feels like the other week. It was probably last year.
Yeah.
But we were on about Kevin Durant. We were saying in years to come, young people, there'll be a new superstar, and people will be like, oh, it's the best player ever. And I'll be that old guy in a rocking chair. Like, oh, well, you never seen Kevin Durant play.
Yeah.
And I think he's one of them players that you see people talk about, the likes of Elgin Baylor and Oscar Robertson, that don't get the hype they deserve. But who is your player that in years to come, when people talk about basketball, it wouldn't be the first answer on people's lips, but it would be yours, that you would go
active.
Yeah.
Active now. Yeah. Right now.
It's a very, very tough question, isn't it? Because a lot of these things are understood and interpreted in hindsight. That's how history is understood. I mean, Mark, Dean, you both knew at the time of Iverson that like Messi, we're seeing something special.
Yeah.
You think, because they're always trying to pitch it as this week it's Iverson versus Bryant.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, there is something similar, but there really wasn't.
No.
And there never has been since. There are unicorns, as they say, in this league, and Durant is definitely at the top of that mountain of 7 foot do it all guys. Like, one thing that's underestimated by Kevin Durant is the defense.
Yes,
that he really does play both ends, and he whenever he's interviewed, it's obvious that he really wants people to notice that.
Yeah,
like, he is an incredibly sensitive fella.
So he
gets hurt. He does, and I think that sometimes is a black mark on him from those older dudes, and it's not fair, because in some ways those older dudes are brutish characters who. Hold on, someone at the door here. 1 second. 1 sec, lads.
Here we go. Perfect.
Hope he knows the rules. If you get a parcel during the podcast, Jack,
tell us what it is. I hope he's not got any dildos coming. This is all staying in, by the way. I want this to be a surprise.
Yeah, my wife's back for her lunch break, and she said, the one thing I want you to do is not leave the keys in the door. What did I do? Left the keys in the door. But at least I heard her, and she wasn't out there battering the door down.
There's a rule. There is a rule on the podcast usually that when somebody knocks on the door and you've got a parcel, you've got to show what's inside the parcel. But
bring her out. I think I was saying that Kevin Durant is a sensitive soul, and that sometimes that's held against him by these older generation guys who, we're kind of learning that, like, that version of masculinity, the kind of we didn't ask anybody's permission, we just took what we wanted, is a bit brutish. And that if we're talking about The Last Dance, or if we even reference it, we have to look at exactly how much of The Last Dance was pitched towards making Michael Jordan's less likable character traits more appetizing for the public as those emerged over time. For that reason, my son says to me things like, LeBron is my favorite player, even though Michael Jordan was better, because LeBron is a good person. That matters now. Yeah, that matters. Definitely. It just does, and it should. It just should.
I did a pod a couple of years ago, British pod called On Court Off Court. And we want to do the GOAT talk. It's like, all right, yeah.
Here we
go.
Went,
but we want you to factor in human aspects, culture, basketball, and rate them all out of 5 on each. So who your person is. So I think we had, MJ, Kobe, LeBron. Now I'm an MJ stan. Simple as that. Like, if you ask me the greatest player of all time is, I'm like MJ. That changed my mind on everything, because when I brought in, I was like, I can't dispute that humanitarian efforts, when they made it, I think they tricked me a little bit. So they'd done it during playing time. So I was like, yeah, but he's opened hospitals in North Carolina. They were like, yeah, but when he was a player, he just smoked cigars and was generally an asshole.
Yeah.
And you've got like LeBron, who's transcended the sport with his views on civil rights and civil injustice and the I Promise schools and giving scholarships to people to go. And you do have to sit there, and anybody that doesn't sit there and go, like, I can understand you say, okay, Michael Jordan, whatever. They never played each other like properly.
No.
It's a he said, she said. It always is going to be. In years to come, there could be a player better than people will say better than LeBron. And I'm still going to sit here and go, but you've never seen LeBron play. Equally, you've never seen MJ play. You've never seen Kobe play. You've never seen Iverson play. And it is always going to be a constant debate. But bringing in the human aspect and the stuff that LeBron has done, your son is right. Like, he's genuinely a good person. And for all intents and purposes, his shit doesn't stink. Like, he's a nice guy.
Character matters.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
You say, oh, you're going to go, like, put it this way, you see Michael Jordan in the street, you'd be like, oh my God, that's MJ. And you'd be like, do I want to meet him? Because
yeah. Very good
because
point.
this might shatter every single one of my dreams. Whereas like you meet LeBron, I feel like you'd be like,
you'd respond well.
He's going to give me something.
Yeah.
Like he might, we'll cancel social distancing. He might give me a hug.
Yeah.
Dean, you need hugs, though. You definitely need hugs.
Yeah, we all need it. The thing with LeBron, with me, that kind of transcends everything is he's never done anything wrong. We're talking about a kid here from the age of 16 has been in the public eye. And the worst thing he did was that stupid thing when he was going to Miami, the decision. That's as bad as his decision-making has been over 20 years.
Which also has paled now as a screw-up, given the way players leave teams as regularly as they do, in the manner in which they do. The player empowerment era began that day, and we suddenly came to understand that players aren't working on a plantation that they can't leave.
Yeah, exactly.
And, in some ways, the decision then becomes actually something that he can be given credit for.
Definitely.
Because for all those players, and let's not forget the trickle down of that is to the NCAA, where players are essentially working as slaves, not receiving payment for anything until this year. You could revisionist history this to the point where you go, well, he was willing to take the flak for that. And I think that he is the one. I think he is the one. And you know what I hope? I don't know if this is controversial to say this or if anybody cares if I say this. I hope he retires next year. I really, really hope that we don't have to watch him drag it out.
Chasing those. I just thought you meant because this new Space Jam's really bad, but
it's so good though. Can I just say this though? I don't know when this is coming out.
It'll be out Friday. So it'll be out the day.
Friday.
Out the day that Space Jam comes out.
Go and see this movie. Please go and see New Legacy. I'm sure people watching this and look, you need to go in the headspace of this is going to be the most bananas thing. Don't attempt to make sense of it. Just go along for the ride and just don't expect basketball. That's the other thing. Don't expect much basketball to be played, but it is so off the wall. It makes the original Space Jam look like March of the Penguins. You're gonna love it.
I want to see that underneath a poster.
I'm gonna send it. I'm gonna send.
And the best thing is, I want it to. I don't want it to say your name. I just want it to say, this film will make the original Space Jam look like March of the Penguins, and underneath just an Irish man abroad. Like just people are like,
and it would make you go right. And that's my thing is that like I've spent years kind of going to movies with the wrong head on my shoulders, but sitting there with my son, 10 years old, when you, Mark, saw the original, you need to go to this going, this is a movie for these people. And they're going to love it. And weirdly, as much as we laughed, and when I asked Mikey to tell my wife what it was about, we laughed our heads off trying to retell the movie. Yeah. And then at the end of it, Mikey was saying, and having said all that, he said, it works. The movie works. Like it's remarkable. That's
all you can ask for, because
you can ask for.
He probably shouldn't have named it Space Jam for starters. He should have just made a new film. I think that's where the problem comes in, because no matter what, he's making that comparison known. The comparison's always there anyway, but he's going, let's do Space Jam, because basically it's just Space Jam 2, but it's not Space Jam 2 because it's completely different. Apparently, I've not seen it. But yeah, he's kind of feeding in to the rivalry as well, LeBron there, which fair play if that's what he wants to do.
Yeah,
I mean, I had quite strong views about the film and the marketing that went alongside it, because when it was announced originally a year and a half ago, they released OG Toon Squad jerseys with LeBron's logo on, and they released Monstar jerseys, and they released LeBron kicks in both. You know, there was the Bugs lows and there was the Monstar 17s, and then like the trailer comes out and you're like, the Monstars don't exist.
But Dean,
just the different jerseys.
But this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, this is exactly what you need to put to one side.
Yeah.
A human being is playing basketball with an animated rabbit. You don't get to apply human logic to to what's going on. You don't get to go, hold the phone a minute. This doesn't make chronological sense.
Why is Bill Murray here? Why is Bill Murray?
Why isn't Bill Murray in it? Yeah. That's the only thing. That would be my only one criticism, was it does lack a character of that sort, because Bill Murray carried the movie at times in the first one, and he's sorely missed in this one, unfortunately.
I have an OG Bill Murray Space Jam jersey. That is how much I love Bill Murray.
My name,
even Bill Murray doesn't have that jersey.
Yeah, my name is Mark Murray, so I love him more than you both.
Yeah,
he's basically my uncle, so we'll leave it there. So,
very good.
Going away from kind of Space Jam and everything, we were going to talk about your defining moment in basketball, but I suppose you've explained in a little bit, which would be probably 1992, the Olympics.
Yeah, definitely that is a moment. It's not a shot going through the basket. It's not a particular series. That is definitely my defining moment. But I do think that 1996 season, the 72-10 season, would have to be number 2, because I mean, to live that as a 15-year-old who's like completely just obsessed with the game in a way that was worrying to my parents. And to have been in school when the Magic beat the Bulls on the back of his screw up, and being in school and Magic fans in the school coming up to me and going, your boy ain't shit anymore.
Yeah.
And telling me what took place and going, I do not believe it. This is not possible. Then watching it with my own eyes, like the redemption journey of that, I don't think anybody will ever really get. And I don't think that The Last Dance does it justice, because when I spoke to Sam Smith, who's obviously a Michael Jordan biographer on the podcast, I spoke to George Mumford, who was Michael Jordan's sports psychologist. The rage, like the absolute rage within him to right that wrong.
He was an angry soul, wasn't he, Mike?
Like, this was 72-10 and beating the Sonics in the manner in which he did, sweeping the Magic that season. Like, that moment of that season, the perfect season, essentially. And then nearly had the Sonics not taken a couple of games off them.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have swept the whole playoffs. Like, that's the kind of anger you were dealing with. And then to win it on Father's Day, I mean, to me, that experience of that year and watching that whole season play out, beginning with Space Jam, beginning with the Jordan Dome, and now knowing that the reason why he was bringing in Reggie and all these guys was to case them, to watch them and go, I know what I got to do here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's evil genius, super detective, like full on psychopath. Amazing. And to me, that's probably moment number 2.
It's crazy to me now when you think about that, because you forget all with history. You forget the backstory, don't you? You just see the numbers. You just see 72-10, and that's it. It's like with the Warriors, when the Warriors went 73-9, That'll never be remembered because in the end, LeBron won the championship.
It don't mean a thing if you don't get that ring.
Exactly.
So true.
The accomplishment of losing 9 games in a season is crazy. I don't care what era we're talking about.
Amazing.
Crazy. Yeah. But that, in time, will be forgotten. It will be forgotten, unfortunately.
Until 74-8 takes place, which is unlikely because I don't know if we talked. The question was about the league right now. It's topsy-turvy, isn't it? It's gone very topsy-turvy. And I don't know if you've been watching the USA games or their prep for the Olympics, but the news overnight was that the players didn't feel that they were getting calls. And, a lot of the boards are saying, well, the NBA needs to look at how they're refereeing these games because the players are manipulating the rules to draw fouls, which is making the games kind of unwatchable in the sense that it's all kick out threes. It's flopping and flinging yourself to the floor, kicking your legs out, trying to draw contact. That's not Olympic basketball. And it makes me wonder, will they win gold this year, especially as wrecked and tired as all these players are?
Great.
Yeah.
After his rookie season, people asked Luka how he'd adapted to the NBA, and he said it's easier to score in the NBA than it is in the EuroLeague. And people thought he was a lunatic. And this is a prime example of the fact that, contrary to what is believed, basketball exists outside of America.
And Luka may be that guy that we talked about earlier. I think that Luka may be that guy that we go, oh, you'll never... we won't see the likes of that again. A child come into the league, having been a child pro, NBA ready on arrival, and then just scoring at will for years to come. And his game is so slow and methodical and deliberate. I can't see him getting injured. Whereas I always thought with LeBron, and I certainly think that with Trae Young, the injuries are going to follow because of the absolute ramming yourself at the back night after night.
I mean, equally, John Moran after every dunk is his ankle's going. Like his ankle's going to break.
Yeah, and as for Zion, I mean, Zion is already in tatters, carrying that load, landing as hard as he does.
The eyes of him, though, it's frightening. It is that you can't jump that high and land on those. That knee cartilage that much without some kind of give.
But he walks like a penguin.
Back to March of the Penguins again. Is that what this podcast is?
No, like maybe is that him protecting his joints when he walks? Like look, I think we're in a really special time. And I think that may be the thing that we look back on in this era and go, oh my God, there was so many storylines, there was so many villains, there was so many relationships and intertwining stories that maybe we are living in a kind of a 90s golden period and we don't even realize.
You may be right. I've lost track. Go on, G-Shaq, you're better at life than me.
Pretty much. You are also a man that is a fan of a basketball sneaker.
Yes.
I do. Yeah. Now, I've got a problem.
Yes, you are. I seen your collection the other day. Actually, you have got a problem.
But am I right in thinking the picture you posted wasn't even your collection?
That's not my collection. It
was a stock picture.
Yeah, it was to tease people. Yeah.
Get it.
That was a tease, definitely.
Now,
are you telling me
basically
that on Instagram isn't
it's
true?
Not real? No, I'm sorry, Mark. I mean, is this the end? But what happened there was I obviously started a running podcast called An Irishman Running Abroad with the greatest Irish athlete of all time, Sonia O'Sullivan, who anyone who's into athletics will know was a world record holder, multiple world champion. She coached me from nothing, literally never running, played basketball, got injured, but then just didn't exercise for years. She took me from the couch to 10-mile road race, and I'm still running now. But in the app, the Strava app, it tells you when it's time to get new runners because it knows how long you've had your sneaks and how many miles you've covered. And they sent me a message the other day going, looks like it's time to buy new runners. And I was like, that is dangerous shit. That is dangerous for somebody with a sneaker addiction like mine. And I have had periods, that's where I've gone cold turkey. I've committed to not buying any more runners. I've had periods where I've hidden runners from my wife. I'm not proud of that. I call them runners, by the way. They are called runners in Ireland. But I definitely have a problem with sneakers more so than jerseys, where that feeling, Mark, that you identify with, I gotta have it.
Yeah.
That I get that with sneakers bad. And I kind of traced it back, as a lot of people have, to not being able to have it when you were a kid. Not coming from a super wealthy house and just feeling like, well, you know what? I've worked hard and I can now. And that feeling does pass, but then there's still times where, like, I keep a lot of them unworn, and I hope that someday my son will wear a couple of them. But to me, it's antiques.
Yeah.
This is modern art. You're collecting something from a time gone by. Like the Billy Hoyles that I have are the Nike Air Force, whatever they were called, Command Force, ridiculous high tops. Like they come up to the middle of your shin. They're the most impractical sneakers in the history of the world. But, they're nearly like a piece of costume. They're nearly like a Halloween costume.
Yeah.
No intention of playing in these, but they're a piece of movie memorabilia. And so much of sneaker culture and sneaker collecting, which is, I think we can all agree, out of control at the moment. Like it's gone off somewhere else. I'll never be part of that. I just kind of have my own thing. And I always say this to my wife, I basically have what I want now. I don't want anything else. And then they'll re-release something and I'll go,
Maybe I've not got what I need yet.
Well, you have. Look at that jersey behind you. That's crazy. Like, I can't believe you got it. I'm so happy you got it. And put your initials in at the end of the game.
Yeah.
That's special, man.
That's it. So, was you going to ask a question then, G, before we just went off on a complete...
No, that was just basically it. Just alongside the fact that
ask the questions anymore.
As what was great is you've said they're antiques, and I've always last year I bought a fair amount of jerseys and refused to call them, still to this day, refused to call them a collection. They are my investment portfolio.
That's what we.
So I would be like, and people laughed, and I was like, no, sit down and think about this.
In years to come,
that is a genuine investment portfolio.
Is that you're going to put your kids through college?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't think I can go to the bank and say to Brian at NatWest. So Brian, what you need to understand is I need $100,000 loan. When he goes, what collateral have you got? And I'll go, what collateral have I got? A 1997 champion Michael Jordan.
That's the
collateral. I got a Drew Holiday.
And 23. 45 and 23.
Yeah. I have.
And he's going to go. I'm like, oh, I'm not done there.
Yeah.
A pair of Jordan 5 Fire Reds.
And I'd be with them. This is all worthless because there's so many of those. Like you want to have a Drew Holiday with bloodstain.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like,
I've got a signed Drew Holiday game.
Look at this now that's showing off.
Why are you letting him flex all the time?
Just name a player, any player.
So much fun. I really love your work. Love the podcast. Really delighted to have been invited on. And look, keep doing what you're doing. I'm so happy to have been part of it today.
Oh, mate, no, thanks for coming on. We've loved it. We can definitely see you've got a passion for the game, and that's what it's about, isn't it? I think when like we were saying before, it's like a little club that not everybody's invited to. And when you find somebody, I'm sure you've been at parties, I'm sure you've been at social gatherings, and somebody says, oh, you like basketball? You'll be stood with them all night. You might as well say to everybody else, I'm finished with the rest of you. Yeah. I'm going to be here 100%. Now.
100%. Yeah.
That's what we've got. And it's so niche, and it's like a little group. And
because even within the basketball lovers, there are those that roll their eyes at the idea of collecting. And, that's when I'm like, okay, let's just talk about the results and the numbers.
The normal stuff.
So, like I'm happy to be in this magic circle, Dean and Mark, and thank you for letting me be part of this today.
No, thank you. Thank you for coming on. I think we're done, which is, I can't believe you've got to 40 podcasts. Or what we normally do is name your favorite player with the number of the podcast, and it's number 40. So,
look, we all know who that is. Sean Kemp.
Got to be Sean Kemp, hasn't it?
Oh my God. The first player that I ever knew that jumped from high school to the NBA.
Yeah.
And that Rain Man VHS tape was
I had that VHS tape. I bought it. I found it in cash converters. I don't know whether you know cash converters.
What a video that was. Yeah. The dunks on that video from him in high school and junior college. Oh my God. Such a good VHS. So yeah, Sean Kemp all the way.
We're definitely naming it the Sean Kemp episode. Well, brilliant. We are done. Thank you for coming on. Plug your socials
so much, lads.
As well.
Oh yeah, I'm on Instagram. I'm the first Jarlath on Twitter. So Jarlath. That's at Jarlath on Twitter. The Irishman Abroad podcast has got hundreds of episodes in the archive, including conversations with Dylan Moore and Dara O'Brien, Sharon Horgan, Aisling B, as well as the spin-off shows. It's the Irishman Inside Basketball, and you can get access to everything, patreon.com/Irishman Abroad. If you're an Irish person listening to this now, you're going to love it, but that's not the only way to enjoy the show. If you enjoy conversation, you'll enjoy the show. But it's been a real pleasure, lads. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. And we are done for episode 40.